Welcome to those on the live stream. Thank you for joining us for week 3. We're transitioning over to iPhone tips and tricks, getting the most out of your smartphone. We're going to do some beginner stuff. And what I really wanted to do tonight was kind of break in kind of softly again and then ramp up. One of the things I found as I'm training, as I'm working with individuals like at the hospital or just in general, there seems to be an overarching lack of knowledge when it comes to navigating the iPhone or any mobile device for that matter, where to find certain things when you need them. And I'm not saying like the really minute, but the things that are more, could you get that door for me? The things that are more like need to know basis. That, whether it's, navigating, configuring, setting up security, fixing security, those kind of things. I find it that anytime a major update comes out with whether it's an Android or an Apple, things move. Say no. Right, but yeah, unfortunately we can't. And some of the organizations that we're in, it's kind of a compliant thing. But here's the thing, and again, it goes back to what I've said in other classes, is that anytime you have an update, it's going to do two things. It's going to either improve security or increase functionality. Is usually those two that are high level. So I tell people, don't ignore it. When you see an update that has to go, unfortunately, some of them are very large and they're inconvenient, but almost all, I know I could say all because Windows operating system, Mac system does it, and your iPhone does it, where you can postpone those updates to like nighttime to make it's plugged in, it's overnight, let it do its thing. And I used to think, well, my alarm's not going to go off in the morning. Something bad's going to happen, right? That's never the case for what I've ever experienced. So anytime I've done an upgrade or let the phone sit on the nightstand, it's always woke me up right on time, played the music I wanted to play, and it's got the update ready to go. And the reason I say those are so important is, again, the day that we're living in with cyber threats, cyber crimes, just the overarching theft of identities and those things is so important. I want to be able to trust the vendors, like Microsoft, Apple, whoever it is, to identify those on my behalf and do the things I can't do. And that's make sure if there's a hole that's in the phone that somebody can get in a back door or pull something out, I'm trusting them to make sure that's taken care of, right? So that's why those updates are important. The last couple updates that have been done have been security, and they've been functionality. So something new has been introduced, or I could say probably 3. Sometimes there's performance enhancements, something that they do that makes something faster, more reliable, extends the battery life. So those are the kind of things we're going to look at tonight. And I'm going to do a lot of overhead demonstrations because I got this tied into the overhead, so you'll be able to see my phone. I hope for those in the call, you'll be able to see a little bit better. But again, as we're getting to the last week, next week, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, I'm going to take little snippets and turn those into separate little videos that have to focus on just those topics. And that way you can see more of a clear in view versus a class type scenario. All right. So for tonight, we're going to spend a lot of time on the navigation, trying to master the settings that we would need to have. And in your booklets, I painstakingly took the screenshots of how that happens and how that plays out. So those are very current, very up to date. And then I'm going to show you how that works. And then some of those that you won't see on the pages there in your hands, we're going to go kind of do a couple rabbit trails and go for some other areas within those distinct groups. Okay. And I'll show the viewers online what that's going to look like on our screens before we get to that demonstration. We'll look at custom settings, security settings, and with time permitting and my voice holding out, we're going to get to a very popular topic that was brought up. I think Dawn brought this up, or somebody brought this up about converting paper documents to digital files. I don't know if that was you. Yeah, I think that was you. I love, love, love this feature. It is phenomenal by far. So if we get to that tonight, I'm going to wow you with two different types of capturing documents. Either scanning it into an actual physical scan like you would a regular copy or those kind of things, or doing a text capture using the camera feature. And I'll show you how that's important because I'll give you an example of my son later when we talk about that. All right, so I'm going to try to keep hydrated as we move along. All right, so the top areas I want to talk about tonight are going to be in the settings, general, notifications, the Apple ID, and the privacy and security areas. I'm going to move this over here just a bit. So each one of these areas is important almost in of itself, but it's going to provide you another window into some additional settings. So the way I like to do it is break it down. So you're not saying, oh my word, there's so many things here. When you open up your phone, you see, you get into settings and you're presented with all these options. It's like, trying to make a choice at the fast food dollar menu. It's like, okay, I came in here knowing what I wanted, but now I changed it 9 times. Where do I find, the Big Mac, small fry, whatever. Okay, well, that's what tonight's goal is going to be, breaking it down. So, if you're in that area that, you need to do something quickly, you know where to go, you know how to find it, and more importantly, you know how to fix it. Because there's times where I've turned something on and it didn't give me the result that I wanted. So I had to go back and turn it off again. Yes, it happens to Donnie and I as techs, as industry veterans in the field, just as much as anybody else. So there's plenty of times I've turned something on and regretted it, and then had to go figure out how to do that, how to revert it back. So we're going to start with settings and then move across into the privacy area, and then we'll get into location. Again, some more privacy and security, doing a safety check, going into the about features, and talk about the Apple ID. All right. And again, please note that if it's on here, it's kind of a dark background, but you do have an area to take notes. I mean, take them along the side. If you have questions, please write them down. We have a lot of content. I planned less content in a way, so we had time for questions, but that never works out. So I'm going to do my best to stay within my structure, and then at the end, we'll open some things up for additional questions. So without further complication of comments, so we're going to start with the location settings, and we're going to kind of move across different areas. So on my phone, I hope for everybody can see that. Can you see it on the screen okay on the live stream?
I mean, they can zoom in if they want, but it's visible.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right, there's our first start where we're at with our settings. And I'm going to kind of just go through the different topics we just talked about, and then we're going to do a zoom into a deeper dive into the other. These look like they may have been put together backwards. I don't know. We'll see. All right. I got to read my notes and this at the same time, so it's a little challenging. I can do it. I can do it. All right, so here we are. We're at settings. I'm going to kind of scroll down through here. We will get into the Apple ID section here in a little bit. Your Wi-Fi. I know folks talked about airplane mode. All right, we'll come back to that here in a little bit. Bluetooth, cellular. I'm not going to talk about VPN. Again, we could spend literally weeks on all this. So that's why I picked and highlighted the top ones that I think you're going to be pretty excited to talk about. All right, and then the way this is categorized, I never really knew how this is really focused, but I think they kind of work on your network functionality up here, your connectivity. Down here is more of the notifications, the sound, things that have to pertain to the actual functions of the phone. Your app store, wallet pay, they keep those nice together, right? Right next to your wallet is the app store. And then passwords, mail, some of the other native features to the phone, things like, messages, FaceTime that are kind of more embedded to the phone's nature. And then down here is a list of all the different apps that you've installed, okay? So each one of those apps has settings applied to it that you can turn on or off. I could say, something like, Disney app. I can configure it in the Siri search and I say, learn from this app. I can allow Disney, the app itself, or allow Siri to learn how to use Disney Plus to make suggestions. And again, anytime, a lot of these are all defaulted to turn on. So it's not like, oh, when did I turn that on? When's the light switch been on? That's always been on. You have to go in and turn the things off that you don't want. But if it's an app that you say, you know what, I'd like to have Siri integrated with this app, because at that point, then I can say, I'll say it quietly, hey Siri, okay, launch the Disney app. And there it goes. So I just have to say, sure, I'll allow it. So if I had that turned off, then Siri wouldn't be able to learn from it. It wouldn't know it's there. I mean, it knows it's there, but you don't have that interaction itself. All right, so I'm just going to swipe that off. I can show the app in the search, and where that's listed is back in the home function area. Oops. I can scroll over to my search, and there's a bunch of things in here, which it doesn't look like I do have it listed, but we'll go through that part here in a bit. I get my thumb scrolling and things start happening. I got to kind of bring it back to where we were. So I want to get back into my settings again. So every app has its own settings that you can choose. Like for this one, InShot has to do with videos and pictures. So these settings are more set for that. Do I want to allow InShot, which is a video and photo app, to have access to my videos and photos? Well, absolutely. I mean, why would I download the app? Okay. But I can say it's just all photos or selected photos, or I could choose none, which defeats the purpose of having the app, right? So I usually keep it on all photos. InShot is not one of those apps that I'm significantly concerned about from a security perspective. But the new feature that's out there, which came out, I believe, with iOS 13 or 14, is the allow tracking. All right, allow tracking, if that's enabled, it will allow the app to cross-track itself with other apps and send information back and forth about activity. So again, it will learn more from me, my habits and where I go and what I do. I typically don't need that turned on. I mean, less is more in this case. So I always turn that off. When I install a new app and launch it for the first time, it will pop up with a box saying, do you want to allow tracking? And I always say no to that, right? Now, there are some that are dependent that you kind of can't turn off. Can't think of any at the moment that I've installed or not deleted. This is different than location, to allow location, all right? So location-based would be like your weather, your navigation apps, and those kind of things that are dependent on your physical location. This is actually tracking applications and phone apps across the platforms. So it can tell, other apps where you've been, what you're doing, and that is supposed to help with the whole experience of the phone. So, you get more delivered to you, more content delivered to you. Let's go to our next topic here. I want to make sure I'm on track. So settings, I can't read my own writing here. General. All right. So general, this is an important area because it's going to show us what our phone is about. All right. So if, for example, I need to do an upgrade to my phone, or there's something I want to load onto it and I need to know what the latest version is, I can click on the About. All right. And it's going to tell me the name of the phone, which I've named my phone. You can do that. You can change the name of their phone to pretty much anything you want. This one here is named Wanderer Video Test 1. I'm currently on iOS version 16.3.1, which is not the latest version. If I click on that, yeah. Yep. Is what? 4.1? Yeah, right. I didn't do the update intentionally today. So yeah, it provides. It just tells you what it provides and what can happen there. So there you can find the current. Tells you your model name, your number. Tells you if you have warranty coverage yet or not, and it also tells you your capacity. So it tells me that I have out of a 64 gigabyte phone memory capacity, I have 45.55 gigabytes left. Well, what's consuming all that? I have 44 applications, 45 photos, 2 videos, and 0 songs. So I can go in here and say, let's say I'm having problems with managing all this space. And I say, wow, I'm down to like 5 gigs of memory. Maybe I need to go and clear out some of the 4,000 photos that I have on a phone or something like that. And I've seen people have loads and loads of pictures.
So 29 available is not good.
That's about average. Out of a 64 gig phone, that's about average. Yeah. I try to leave for the sake of the phone's performance, because remember I said last time that it takes up, the data does take up some kind of space, just like a filing cabinet. You stuff too many things in a filing cabinet, it gets full. You have trouble opening it and looking for things and finding what you want. iPhone processor is the same way. Computer processors are the same way. If I'm running out of storage to do my job as a computer, as a processor, then I'm going to have to take more time to go out and find the different things I need to deliver to you on the screen. So that's kind of the way that works. So I try to leave anywhere between 5 gigs to 10's probably a little too much, but 5 gigs is about enough if you really had to go to the minimum to keep the performance running with everything else you're loading on the phone at the same time. Yes, they can. It depends. That's a great question. We're going to cover that next week. But photos have different resolution sizes. The better quality, especially videos. All the new phones are capable of 4K video. So 4K video, 1 minute of video could be up to, I think it's like 25. No, what is it? Hold on. Well, I can find out. Yeah. Hold on. I know what it is.
I do pictures on it. I have 5,000 pictures on it.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
So how I find that out, I'm gonna get diverted a little bit, but we will get into the photos next week. But I do want to show you, since you brought it up, if I scroll down, since we're in the settings area, and I go down to camera, all right. Now up here it tells me I'm currently recording at 4K, 24 frames per second, which is cinematic quality. That's really, really good quality. And I will tell you, going to film festivals and knowing people in the industry that have done full feature-length films on nothing but iPhones and iPads, and you go to certain movies, and that's been done, you could never tell the difference. Could never tell a difference. So what I can do is, if I go into that area, here are all the different formats. Now this would be the very, very highest, 4K at 60 frames per second. That is 1 minute of video will be approximately 400 megabytes at 4K, 170 megabytes at 4K 30 frames per second. And then as you decrease the quality, the space is minimal. For normal, regular home users, consumers, most of you are going to be staying right around the 1080p or 30 frames or 60 frames per second. For home movie type stuff, I don't recommend going anywhere above 1080p, 60 frames per second. That's going to take up about 90 megabytes per minute, which is still going to get you great quality video and more of it. It's still very, yeah, it's high definition.
When you look at your gigabytes, you see that you're getting those videos you're not using. Okay.
Well, back them up,
Okay.
right? Make sure if it's something you want, again, we'll talk about that next week to the iCloud. Yeah, if it's something I want, because again, if there's a movie of the kids that I can never replace,
Yes.
I want to make sure I have that downloaded somewhere for safekeeping.
So like
or
your
to the
computer
cloud.
Or something like that, okay.
Right, right. Okay. So that's where that's at. We won't talk about all the other stuff, but that's where you find that setting. Again, I'm going to check box the one that I would normally use. And once you check that box, then when you get out of the camera mode, it's already in that mode, ready to go.
You got that checked in camera?
Yes, under your settings. Okay? Yeah, because if you start recording 4K at 30 frames per second, you're going to fill up your phone really quick. All right. All right, so that where that was again is down under settings, under camera, and then record video. So the way you can tell also when there's different menus, you can see the little greater than symbol right here. That always tells you there's another menu beyond that. So like slow-mo, all right, there's another arrow. I can change the resolution on that. And it tells me how much space that stores as well. All right. We did some great slow-mo shots a couple years ago down in Florida. I had it set on a higher frames per second, and we were taking a look at waterfalls. And I was doing like shots like of streams that were coming down these different cliffs we were on. I was getting like right down here in slow-mo mode, and it was so cool. It looked like I don't know, it just looked really neat when it hit the slow-mo mode. You see the water just doing its thing, and really, really kind of could almost put music to it. It was kind of neat. All right. Check my notes here. All right, so back to general. Software update, I think we did talk about that. Oh, no, we didn't. So this, again, is an important spot. I may have backed out of this a little bit until we were talking about something else. But here, it tells me it's ready to download and upgrade to 16.4.1. And it tells me it's going to take, what, 1.8 gigabytes of storage for an update. Okay, there's where you need to make sure you got available space on your phone, because that won't even kick off if it doesn't have, I think at least, there's a certain percentage higher. I think it's like 20% or whatever. So it should have right around 2 gigabytes to 3 gigabytes, because what happens is it will download that 1.8 before it gets rid of the other. So you have almost essentially two operating systems going at the same time when it's in that standby mode doing its thing. So if it doesn't have enough space on the device to do all that, it's either going to lock up or crash, or it just won't do it. I mean, it's smart enough to know, hey, you should really have 5 gigs, until you get that, we're not going to do this. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
So what's your reason you didn't do it?
Because I wanted to show it off tonight. Yeah, I mean, I'll do it tonight, but this is mainly my video phone I use for other stuff, for doing training and stuff. But I like that they're telling me this introduces 21 new emojis. Ooh, all right. 1.8 gigabytes of emojis. I love it. Other enhancements. There we go. Bug fixes and security updates for your phone. Right there. And if you want to know what all those do and what all those are, you can click on that little link right there. Or I recommend highlighting it and sending it to a computer so you can read the 15 pages of what's being changed and updated, because it's all, they are very transparent. Not many people know to do it or care, but I mean, I like to see what's coming out, because there's been times where there's been a new feature introduced that I'm like, oh, man, people would love to see this. I'm gonna learn about it and show it to people. Especially when they came out with the new capture for taking subjects out of a frame in a picture, which I'm going to show you next week, because I know that was brought up by Dawn. And Dawn, if you're listening, we're going to do that next week. How to take a subject out of the picture, remove the background, and copy it into something else. So cool. It transforms photography. It's fantastic. So I can either download and install it or say, nope, I'll wait till later. All right. The other thing you noticed in there is that I have automatic updates turned on. So at some point, it's going to say, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. We're just going to do this, right? So I can actually turn those off if I want to. And I can be optional about that. I can just, have the iOS updates installed, security responses installed, those kind of things. But I mean, this phone, I particularly like them to take care of it. So I'm going to keep everything on. And they do a great job of saying, hey, it's going to happen. Do you want to snooze it? Wait till tonight. I was like, yeah, that's great. Nightstand, do your work, and you'll be good to go. All right, couple other things. Going back to the general options, still stuck on this iPhone storage thing is the iPhone storage area. And this breaks it down even deeper for you. So in here, I can see that I'm using, or actually I have, I'm using 18 gigs of my 64. It's telling me how that content is broken down. So you can see the iOS is taking up as much storage as my apps. All right. Photos, messages, system data. All right. Right now, it doesn't look like I have that many photos and that many messages, so I'm doing pretty good. I can go in and look at my attachments because it's telling me that I could save 244 megabytes if I got rid of some of that stuff. Or let's see, I've got some apps on here I have not used for a very long time. So it's telling me it's got 1.5 gigabytes it's taken up, but I have not used it since last year. October 9th, 2022 was the last time I used it. I may not even need that on my phone anymore. I could free up 1.59 gigabytes of space by wiping that out.
So how do you wipe it out?
So why I wipe it out is I can slide it, just take my finger and slide it to the left. And it tells me, do I want to offload the app or delete the app? Well, what's the difference? Offloading the app kind of stores it in the cloud and it keeps all the data still on the phone. So if I've done files with it or I've made change, like I've saved files in that app, they're going to stay on the phone. But the app is going to kind of float up into the cloud for a while.
And
Right?
any space on your phone.
That will free up the space on the phone. Yeah, everything except the data, the files that I want to keep on the phone. That way, if I decide later, you know what, I need that back, it's going to quickly download it again for me, and I'll have access to it. Or I can just say, I want to delete the whole thing, get rid of it.
Okay.
All right? Make sense?
But you can get it back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even if it's an app I paid for. So if it's an app I paid for, I won't have to pay for it again, as long as I'm using the same iCloud account. So if I've ordered apps, again, we're going to talk about this next week. If I've paid for apps that I've downloaded and I've deleted them because I just wasn't using them, I can go back into the App Store and find those apps, and it's going to have a little picture of a cloud next, like with an arrow on it, saying I can just re-download it.
Oh, okay.
So it already knows you paid for the app or the subscription, and you can re-download it for no charge again. All right, so anyway, if I wanted to say, I'm just going to go back through and all the ones that, are old that I haven't done with, for a while. There's YouTube, that's today. Messages, I could just go through and say, I don't need any of these. But if you notice, it's got it already organized by the highest amount of storage to the lowest. So here's all the big ones I could do some really big free ups on. As I go down, these are a little smaller, all the way down. Duolingo Math is only 50 megabytes, Khan's Academy, vidIQ, just really, really small ones that are insignificant, but they're many and they add up. All right. Okay, so let me kind of go down through some areas here. I think that's really all I wanted to cover in the general portion of things. So I'm going to go back to the settings area, and we're going to look at the notifications. All right. Now you can have this, By default, a lot of apps are just turned on inherently, natively, and you can just have bells and whistles going off all day long. So what you can do in here is each app, you can set the notifications how you want it. Generically speaking, though, the notifications area will say where, like, when a default notification appears, where do you want it to come in? Do you want it to kind of stack itself, at the bottom? And I've seen it where what will happen is you'll have all these like little overlay bubbles, and you can touch it and scroll up, and you can see all these notifications. Mine right now is set to list. So as they come in, they just kind of pile up the front, and then you can scroll up and down to see those notifications. So you can turn those wherever you want.
List for like novices, is that a good place?
List, yeah, pretty much. If you want to see everything at a glance, I don't know if it has to do with like novice or basic or beginner, but just depends on your preference. Like if I want to have them all stacked in one spot where it's out of the way, it's like tucked at the bottom of my phone, that's a good place for it. Or if you want to,
You gotta touch them and scroll up.
yeah,
That list, I like that.
yeah, or the list just shows up right then and there. Yep. You can turn on the schedule summary, and I can say that I can schedule. I don't want to go too deep into this because this is almost another lesson. I can schedule when I want my notifications to pull up. There may be some that are more critical than others. There may be phone calls and messages that I really don't care about as much as others. So I can go in here and I can set this up to notify me on my time. I may say, you know what, after 5 o'clock, I don't want to hear from Donnie at work. Unless it's an absolute emergency. Now watch, he'll call me tomorrow night and say, I've got an emergency. But there are some things like, for example, if someone's sick and they're calling in, I'd like to know that. So I have it where my notifications start coming in around 6 o'clock because I should be up anyway. And they end somewhere between, I think I have it set to go to sleep around 9 o'clock. So I don't get any notifications. I mean, they come in, they just don't alert me and say, hey, Steve, here's another one. All right, so anyway, you can get down into your apps, and I can say, like Facebook especially, I have a love-hate relationship. It's very platonic with Facebook. I hate it. I love it, and I hate it. So I can say I want to allow notifications. I can say I want to deliver time-sensitive notifications. That would be on the lock screen. So if I have my screen locked, those notifications are still going to pop up. And again, I can tell them where I want them. I can tell them the banner style. Like if I have it set where it's going to kind of scroll across the top, I can change how I want that to look. I can say, ring a bell, send me a badge, or which is kind of like a little notification again, that little pretty thing that shows up. Or I can set up groupings automatically too. I could see what comes in through Instant Messenger versus what comes in through Facebook. And then maybe I'm part of a group in Facebook for homeschoolers or for planes or whatever. Well, I can say the group may be anybody that texts me in that group, it's going to be separate. So I can see everything right there and not have to scroll through all of them to find it. All right. And it's the same thing with all of them. So again, down here is your messages, as you talked about, Chris. I can go in here. Again, I can allow or not. So if it's green, I'm allowing it, or I can turn it off to say, nope, I don't want it. This is an important one down here too, previews. Show previews on the lock screen I have set to always. So there's good and bad for that. So if I have the previews and I'm sitting and I got my lock screen turned on, if I get a text message, sometimes it will show up with the person's name or phone number and a kind of a brief top level of what that's about. Well, there may be confidential information. I don't want that. It's just sitting on my table, or I'm trying to surprise my wife with a gift for her birthday or anniversary, which has never happened in 23 years. It's always pretty much I give it away somehow. So I can hide that. So if something comes up saying, no, your gift for Lynette from Amazon is on its way. I'm like, no, you didn't see that, right? I can turn that off. It'll ring the bell, but it won't give me a, like, here's the brief summary preview of that, right? So, but I do have it turned on because there's the lazy me that I'll be, sitting in the chair or getting ready for bed and something comes in and I want to know if I kind of look over at it and like, oh, okay, it's my wife. Don't tell her I said that, right? Or whatever. You can just do the quick summary and decide whether you're going to answer that text or message or whatever or not. All right, so does that kind of break it down? It's kind of the high level view of notifications. Again, it's one of those things where you can turn it off, and if you don't like it, turn it on, vice versa. There's nothing in here you're ever going to break inherently. It's just going to be one of those binary up and down, left, right, on, off. I mean, the only thing I think would really mess things up if you change the language by accident, which I have done. I have done that initially setting up a phone. I put it in some French thing. I don't know how I did it, but I was just playing around, being goofy, and I couldn't figure out how to get it back into English. I had to just go through it. I had to try to fumble through and do the reset all over again and set it back up for English. So it is very fun. Oh, there's tons of, yeah. If you ever do a YouTube, look up practical tricks for iPhone users to play on your friends. Oh, there's so many of them. There's times where you can actually take your, you take a screenshot of somebody's window, their screen and all that, and make that their home page picture. And then when they're tapping on it, nothing's happening. Oh, I've done that. I've done that a lot. And it's pretty funny. But yeah, you can just do stuff, stuff like that and make your life interesting. I have a 15-year-old daughter who makes my life extremely interesting. So it's a lot of fun. All right. Apple ID. Let's talk about that a bit. This is where some of the fun begins. Actually, more of the private stuff in here. So here where it says Apple ID, Cloud, Media, and Purchases. I'm going to click on that. And this is going to give me a summary overview of my, is that equipment in the way? I hope that's not blocking your view at all.
I'm sorry.
This isn't in the way too much, I hope.
Look around.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So it tells me my account, my email, if I want to go read all the 45 pages of terms and conditions. And this is where I'm going to set up like my name, phone number. I can click on that. It's probably going to ask me to authenticate, which I already did earlier, so it didn't tell me this time. I can assign a name to myself, where I'm reachable at this email. My birthday, I have announcements turned off. I have Apple Music and TV stuff turned off. This is just this prevents the extra junk mail that I don't want. My policy is, again, I try to manage this like in a work environment. We have so many different ways of communication. We have Teams messages, text messages, instant messages, emails. My philosophy is emails are for something that's a little more drawn out. It's got more detail. It might have attachments to it. It's for a broader spectrum audience. All right. Text messaging is that I need this information to you quickly, or I'm on my way. It's not, to me, text messages weren't meant to be a conversation. So kind of going back to this area here again with Apple ID, I can set up my payment and shipping methods. So I can set up my credit card, Apple Pay, those kind of things right in here if I wanted to. I can go into subscriptions and see what subscriptions that I have currently. Now on this account, I don't have as many. I have a Stream Deck thing that I've used that I play with. It's already expired, but I could go in and find out what subscriptions I have ongoing, and I can see what the payments are on them and how what the next renewal date's going to be. And I'll tell you what, that's been helpful in a lot of ways, because there's sometimes, again, and I have a couple of videos about this on my site, on my channel, where if I'm getting that free app, and I've downloaded the free app, And most of the time now they already have your credit card, but it's only for a week, or it's only for 3 days. And if you don't cancel that subscription by midnight on that last day, you're going to get charged. So then all of a sudden, I'll find some stuff, I'll buy some things that are free, and I'll start seeing all these charges pop up on my card like constantly. I'm like, oh my word, and then I'll get the text message from my wife. What are all these Apple payments? I'm like, okay, so now I got to go back in and find out what subscriptions just converted over to pay subscriptions so I can go in and wipe them out. And the good news about it is, in like 80-90% of the time, they'll reverse the charge. They actually have a method that is it's kind of buried, and that's why I did a video on it. And I've gotten like thousands and thousands of views on this thing, and people have thanked me for it because it saved people hundreds of dollars of how to go in, and it's buried, to find out how to cancel that subscription and do it like right away within 48 hours. It's kind of like those little things add up. It may be a $1.99 or maybe $2.50 or $2.99 or something, but then before you know it, you have hundreds of dollars racked up in these charges, and you're like, wow, I can't afford coffee anymore. I got to cut some of this out. Don't interrupt the coffee. Media and purchases. Again, it's going to ask me to authenticate here, so I'm just going to hit my view account. Yeah, so here's the other area where you can get to find, you can add money to your Apple Pay account, area for subscriptions, purchase history, hidden purchases. You can unhide that you previously hidden. I don't know why you want to hide that. Manage newsletters, special offers, all that stuff. So again, we're not going to get into all that. All right, let's migrate now into the privacy and security settings. All right, so from here, I'm going back into my settings, and I'm going to come down to privacy and security. All right, we're going to talk about a couple different things in here. I'm going to start up with location services and tracking. So again, with location services, there's the pros and cons to this. There are some things that I don't know why you would have access, why you would need to have access to it, and there's some things that are pretty critical. If you notice, some of these apps here will say while using. That just means that location services are going to be active when the app's launched and it's running in the background. All right. Again, what you have to make sure of though too, let's say if I'm going to bring up my weather app. All right.
Location service where you are.
Yes. Now for some reason it's not showing it on here, but it's showing it on here. So what I have here is allow weather to use your location. So I can turn precise on once, allow while using the app, or don't allow. Well, if I don't allow it, then it's not going to tell me immediately what the weather is, or it's not going to give me alerts if there's like a thunderstorm warning or those kind of things. So I typically say while using the app. All right. Now, if it's while using the app, it means even if the app is in the background, it's refreshing, it's doing something, it's going to be reaching out to GPS and location services and doing its job. So if I say, okay, I'm just going to switch to another app, it's in the background, it's still active, it's still doing something. It's not until I go and say, boop, I don't want you, now location services for that app have been turned off. You can turn on share my location, which I don't actually have on right now. App Store, calendar, camera, I have that turned on to never. You think, why would I want to turn on or off location services for my camera? Yes, it does. It tells you in the what they call metadata of the phone, where the picture was taken. So if I say I want to turn on that feature, it enables the precise location. So now if I say I'm going to go take a picture of Donnie, just because he looks so astute sitting there. There, look at that. Wow. All right. I can go back. If I just kind of, I'm going to come up here close. If I just kind of put my finger down here and lift up, it shows me a map with his picture, where I took this picture.
Amazing.
And it shows me the date, the time, and Lafayette, Indiana. Oh, look at that. I can even get a map if I wanted to. And I could get locate driving instructions right to it. So, parents who have kids with phones that are, I'm sorry, ignorant to this feature, and just Snapchat everything to death, and the new one's called Be Real and all those things that, the TikToks. Besides the app physically tracking you, the pictures themselves will do enough damage to get somebody, what we call bad actors, to your front door. To your front door. So no longer do you just have to say, hey, I'm going to post my name and address on Facebook. So the big problem with that is when folks go on vacation and they're posting pictures of their whereabouts, what does that tell me as a bad actor? No one's home. No one's home. Because whatever comes from my phone goes online, metadata and all. So if I wanted to download a picture that you posted with this turned on, I get all that data. I get everything. I even get the coordinates. Right there is the long and lat right there of the picture that I just took. I can report an issue. Yeah, it's an issue.
So you can get it of your picture. How does the other people?
Because if I post this picture online, all that information goes with it.
They get the coordinates too.
So they can download that picture. Absolutely. So again, back in my camera, I'm turning that off and I'm saying never to that. That, I know if anybody's listening as a parent, on the live stream, I would invest some time in going through the family phones, the family devices, and doing a security check and making sure the privacy features are set accordingly. Make sure things like this are not active. There's different arrows that will pop up too alongside of certain objects. If a gray arrow is next to it, like you can see right now, that wasn't there before. A gray arrow indicates that an item has used your location in the last 24 hours. So that picture that I took with the location turned on, it just now told me, which, hey, thank you for transparency, Apple. That's great. I like that. That something in my camera showed my location in the last 24 hours. A purple arrow indicates that an item is recently used your location. This is where the fun begins, people. So system services. I'm going to go down to system services. And yeah, these are all on default, by default. So, and again, some of them are required. I would feel comfortable knowing that if I have a 911 experience, that my information is going to get out to get people to me, right? So compass calibration, network search, emergency calls, find my phone, location-based alerts like Amber Alerts or national state.
Are you under camera still, or?
No, I'm under system services. Okay, let me back up for everybody that needs to see that. So I was still under privacy and security. All right, and I was under location services and then down to system services. Now, most of these by nature are probably pretty important, especially if you're traveling and you're looking for a restaurant, you're looking for a quick fast food, you're looking for a rest stop, these are important. So anyway, that's pretty much the whole area of the location services, privacy, security. Let me see, there was another area. Oh, safety check. That's on the next page. I'm going to try to stick with my program here. I think I covered things a little out of sequence, but the safety check is kind of neat. This will protect your personal safety by staying aware of which people, apps, and devices have access to your information. So if I want to do a quick safety check, I can go in here and it will run me through a quick little a reset, or I can manage my sharing and access, which I'm going to do that on. I'm just going to do the manage sharing. Again, it wants my passcode, which is just for what we're doing here. So I can manage how I share information with certain people that may be on my plan. Like I have a family sharing plan. I can make changes that will be saved as I go. Keep in mind that people may notice if you stop sharing information with them. Oh no, don't unfriend me. So I can review what I'm sharing, review the apps that I'm managing, what I'm allowing people to see. So, for example, we share a calendar in our family, so everybody knows they have access to our calendar. And if it's not on the calendar, it ain't happening. You all know how to use it. So you can run through and say, you know what, this person's no longer in the family for whatever reason. Name your reason, and you can remove that person's access or revoke it somehow. All right, lockdown mode. Lockdown mode is important. Lockdown mode is extreme, okay? So it's extreme protection that should be used only if you believe you may be personally targeted by a highly sophisticated cyber attack. Is anyone in this room that important? Now, you're all important in God's eyes. I get you. I love you enough to say that. But, I think it's funny that lockdown mode, like if you are personally targeted by a highly sophisticated cyber attack, I mean, millions of dollars are being poured into attacking my phone right now. Most people are never targeted by attacks of this nature. When the iPhone is in lockdown mode, it will not function as it typically does. Apps, websites, and features will be strictly limited for security. I keep flipping it around here. And some experiences will be completely unavailable. Let's go back to the display settings. So I'm going to go back out. So I'm just, when I'm in an area like I just was, which I'm sure you're familiar with it, just hitting the blue settings or just the arrow that way is going to take me out of that area. And then we're going to look at display and brightness. This is something I brought up during the Windows class we were talking about the other week, where it has the night shift mode on here. I love this. So there's things I can do on here with the different brightnesses. I can have a dark mode, light mode. For those of us who need more larger letters, I can turn up my size of my letters.
So bold is just thicker, not.
Yeah, bold is thicker. The text size is the actual point size or the height and wideness of it. Back. So if I'm in my settings, right out of my settings, I'm going to display brightness.
My settings says my name on it. Where do I go to settings?
Can you see?
Scrolling down.
Keep one down.
Yeah, just keep scrolling down.
Display brightness.
General, control center, display brightness. These are things I know that are helpful for us that our eyes are getting a little weaker or resisting the glasses and stuff. Right.
I don't see anything without my glasses.
So here's where you can, like you said, you can turn on the bold, and that you see how it will change the thickness. You can change the text size and make it smaller or bigger. The other thing you can do too, go into the night shift mode. All right, night shift mode will automatically shift the colors to display a more warmer color. at the end of the spectrum after dark. This may help you get a better night's sleep. And studies have proven that the blue light is definitely a cause of sleeplessness, restlessness. So I can turn this on. I can say I'm going to schedule it, and that's kind of late. I mean, I think I have mine set to somewhere around. Well, you can do sunrise to sunset if you wanted to. And how's it going to pull that? How's it going to know? It's going to know by your geolocation on the phone what you're telling it. That it knows you're in Lafayette, Indiana. It knows the sun sets at 8:35 tonight, and it's going to turn on that schedule of that light when it's ready. So I can make it like a more warmer or softer colors. You know, I think I have mine turned. You can't see it on here, but mine's kind of like really gets to that soft color. So I know, okay, I've been scrolling too long. It's time to bed. Time to go to bed. Some other things too is your auto lock. I have it set on this one to lock after 5 minutes of inactivity. You can set it for something as small as 30 seconds. And this will be basically that, you know, attention is detected when you're looking at your screen. Attention is detected. When attention is detected, the iPhone does not dim the display or lock. Okay. So